Hi, welcome to Q Stories. I'm Jim McKinnon.
I am Lohith Suresh. And Jim, I would like to know where you grew up, and can you just tell us a little more about you growing up, your environment you grew up in, and your neighbors, friends, parents, a little bit.
Sure. I grew up just south of Dayton in Bellbrook, Ohio. I grew up, it was me and my sister and my parents, and just lived on a little dead-end street, and we had, our neighborhood kids that we grew up with, and we went all through school together. At the time, my parents were still married, so it was kind of just a very normal, traditional childhood. So
That's cool.
yeah. And what about you? Where did you grow up, and how was your hometown?
I'm from India. I've been here a little over a year now. It's gonna be 2 years soon. And I was here for my graduate studies, and I grew up in different places throughout my life. I lived with my mother in a small village for about 5 years of my life, in and out. And in between, I lived in a small town called Tumkur, and I also lived in a metropolitan city for a longer period of my life, where I moved from last time to here.
Okay.
I would like to know, while you were growing up and when you were in your early 20s, what was the society and the government and the people around you were like in terms of acceptance of different identities?
So growing up, I grew up in Bellbrook. Like I said, it was much smaller at the time. No diversity, right? Everybody looked the same, and especially my dad, but my parents were very conservative, and we went to church every Sunday, and differences were not really accepted very, very widely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not easily. So I did not come out until I was 33. So it was a lot different. I didn't feel that I could, I guess. I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't weird. It was just the way it was, right? And then that's funny. So what was your childhood like? Your home life and your parents?
It was I don't know. It was not the greatest life. I am not happy about how my childhood was, but don't complain about it, because I am glad it happened the way it did, because that's what made me the person I am today. And I just my father, I never liked him in my life, and I still don't. We do not we haven't talked. We have not talked in years, or maybe I hardly remember talking to him. But also I grew up with a lot of people. I have always been an extroverted person, and I've always admired by people, and constantly surrounded with people. I was really good at studies, so I was a model kid for a longer period of my life. So everyone wanted a kid like me. So I was happy about that, but it was never fulfilling. It always felt void, because of a lot of things, and because of my beliefs to start with. I always believed that my life is all about me getting a job, getting married, and that's the end of it. And at least that's what so many other people been telling me to do in my life. And it when I started being part of a youth organization when I was 16 years old, that's when I started realizing that actually I can make choices in my life, and I can discover who I am, and make my own path to live my life. And my life changed completely since then.
Wow, good.
And you said that you kind of came out when you were 33 years old. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Sure. So, like I said, my parents were very conservative, especially my dad. I grew up going to a church where they had no problem using terms that are not nice, right? Like people of different races, even they would use these words, and every week or very often, that I was going to go to hell, or these people were going to go to hell, and whatever. So my whole teenage years, I thought, well, I can't be gay because I don't want to go to hell or whatever. So it was really hard. I knew probably pretty early, right? Like there was something different. I didn't know exactly what it was. I went to college. I got married. I have kids. I did what I thought I was supposed to do, and that's what I told my parents when I came out. Like I did what I was supposed to do. I did these things because that's what you always wanted me to do, right? It was. Again, I don't regret any of that, right? Like I have my children and they're adults, but I have my daughters, and like all these experiences that, like you said, make me who I am. So that's just part of my story and part of my journey. It was a long journey, right? Like it wasn't. Everybody has their own kind of experience and journey, and mine just had that little detour, or whatever you want to call it. But it's all about discovery and who I am now. And it took me a little longer to get there than some, but it's all good. So, being from India, I don't know that much about India, but I assume like religion is a big part of a lot of people's lives. How was that part of your upbringing?
Yeah, I mean, to start with, thank you so much for sharing your journey. And yeah, I mean, I did grow up in a religious family, and it was a big part of my life when I was too young, right? For a person like me who was hopeless, and I cried to bed for a longer period of my life. It's not maybe because I was a queer and it was not accepted or anything. It's just the life people wanted me to live was not satisfactory, and it always felt despite of the whole charade outside of people praising me for all the things I do well and everything, it always felt like it's not my life and it didn't make me happy. So I again in the times like that, what really helps is faith, because it's just easy to believe that there's someone's gonna come help me and everything's gonna be fine. And that's what I did for a long for so many years until I was 15 or 16, and the result is that it didn't work. So no matter how much I believed, no matter how many temples I went to or rituals I did, nothing worked. So but as I mean, to be more clearer, I don't think there's any such religion or a big religion which accepts differences, at least at this point. And it was the same case for in my religion too. Even though in Indian culture they did accept trans women specifically for a really long period of time, most of the tradition and culture involves them as a what can I say? They are God. So if you are holding a celebration at your place, if a trans woman comes, like visits the celebration, it's a good luck. So you basically invite them over and like give them presents or whatever. But like over the period of time, it's like mostly, even though they invite them to a like celebration like this and they pay them pennies because they look down on them because they're easily available and they can just invite them over any time they like. But I don't know, like I kind of feel like the idea of like gender inequality and toxic masculinity is like what's like, I don't know, led them from being recognized anymore. But even in the like some of the holy scriptures, there are some like mentions of the people who are different, which is not recognized currently. They never talk about it, but it exists.
Yeah.
You talked about like your like coming out story. I would like to know like when you kind of came out, like what was the means of dating? I don't think all these like modern dating apps or like websites existed back then. And
Right.
how, like what are some of the means you use, or like some of the things like your friends or like the people you knew did?
So, right, there were no apps. You know, I had a cell phone, I think, but no smartphone. And so there were a couple websites, but I mean, I had a couple friends and I would just go out, like we'd go to the bar or something like that, or to their house and just meet people that way. It was a lot different than now. So, but you know, I think dating on apps is probably hard because you're just home or wherever, right? Like you and your phone, and you're just looking at pictures. You're not really talking to people, or I think either way it's hard, right? Right? Like meeting people, dating, whatever, is a hard situation. But I think being with people and talking, you get a different idea of how they are than from an app. So it was. I'm thankful for that it wasn't just on like an app, right? Like, but I'm more of a different generation, so I'm more, you know, I don't know, apps aren't.
You're a people person.
Right, like, I mean, I have apps on my phone, like, you know, everybody uses apps, but like I don't like to work from home, and I like to go to the office and stuff like that. So I like to be around people, right? Like not just looking at my phone or something. So, but so.
Hear you.
Yeah. So you talked about like growing up and being different, but when did you know? I'll kind of combine the next two because it go together. When did you know that you were gay, and when did you? And how old were you when you came out?
I guess I suspected when I was like 15 years old. I guess because most of the boys in my high school were talking about the girls. I was like, what am I doing in my life? Why am I not doing what they're doing?
Right, yeah.
Why am I not staring at women? And like I've always been good with like everyone. Like it's just like not men or women. I used to hang out with all of them. And I did not know like gays existed for a long period of my life, and once I had a chance to look at this TV show. This TV show was about resolving someone else's family problems, and the family problems they were discussing in this program was like two families, like both of their daughters fell in love, and they had like their families come over, sit in two different directions, and they had some doctors, lawyers, like police or whatever. Wow. And they were having a conversation, and this like one doctor goes and talks about like homosexual relationships. I'm like, ooh, I didn't know that like that existed, and I'm like, maybe like I could be like a homosexual man. And I joined, like I started being part of my youth organization like after like few months like after that incident. And fortunately I had a chance to meet amazing mentors, and one of these mentors, I think they knew like by looking at me or whatever, and he sent me to this nice workshops called body mapping. It's all about knowing my entire body and how I feel about it, and how, like, what are my thoughts like, and do they align with what my body, like what I expect my body to do. And in this workshop, like with a lot of sessions, like a lot of conversations we had, I kind of was like more sure that I could be a homosexual man, and that led me to go have a conversation with the host of the workshop later, because they were part of the organization I was part of. And she just told me that you do not have to worry about what you are. Like, I want you to know that you are allowed to feel however you like without labeling it. And that's where I started. And like she also put me in touch with different organizations which were like operating in that city. I lived in a metropolitan city, so fortunately I had more opportunities to meet people, have more and more conversations, understand like differences, and it made, I don't know, like my journey a lot easier. And I didn't have to hate myself for who I am when I kind of discovered myself. So, like, you did ask me about what my religious association was, and I just would like to know, like, you did mention that your like family is conventional Christians, and like you grew up with them, and you've been religious for a really long like period of your life. And I would like to know like how your religiousness or like your spirituality or divinity goes with your identity, and do you think there is a space for us to like for both of them to work together?
I think there probably is a space that works for people. It doesn't work for me. I have, I mean, I'm traumatized, I think, by what I was taught and what I learned and what I heard almost every week. It's very hard for me to go into a church for a service, you know. Sometimes even a wedding is sometimes too much, like in a church. Sometimes I go and I can kind of just think and listen, not even listen to what's happening, but like listen to things around me, not the service. I do enjoy the music, which is weird, but I do enjoy the music at church. And I like to, it's not all bad memories, right? Like, I mean, the music maybe brings back good music or good memories. But for me, it's very hard to have a relationship with religion. Now, there's maybe a more spiritual side, like I can understand that, and I kind of feel like I'm a spiritual person. But as far as religion goes, I don't. I have a problem, and it's my own problem. It's not with religion. It's, you know, my relationship or my upbringing with religion, right? I have friends who are gay, who are preachers, and I don't understand. Because I can't separate my past from now, right? Like we've had conversations and they try to explain it, but it always goes back to my childhood, and I can't separate the two. So it's hard for me to do that. But I mean, I understand spirituality. I understand, you know, even meditation, or just like, you know, going outside and being alone with nature and thinking and kind of praying, but not really. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of the same, I guess. just a different name. I don't like to say praying. I don't know, but it's, yeah, that's how I am with that. So it's tough.
I guess whatever you're comfortable with.
Right. Yeah. So, was there anything that that kept you from coming out to your parents, or were you afraid, and how did your parents react?
So that's a complicated question, which I do not have answer for. But this is what happened. Like in one of my aunt's one of my aunt's marriages, like a relative told my mother that I am more feminine for a male, and I should probably get tested, and there could be something wrong. And my family, I don't know what were they thinking. They took me to a gynecologist.
Oh my.
I'm like, I pretended as if nothing happened. I have no idea what's happening. And I go to a gynecologist and they ask me, like, do you know why you are here? I'm like, I have no idea. And they did ultrasound. They had me do some tests and everything. And she goes and tells me that, like, your body looks like perfectly fine. I'm like, I did not think I have any problem with my body, and that's what she told my parents, and they did take me to an andrologist later after a few days. This person goes and tells that I know about this LGBTQ people and everything, and like if you are one of those, you can identify yourself. I'm like, I don't know what that is. I said, like, I just had to make sure that like my family did not know, because I was not ready to deal with them yet. And later, like he told me that, like he told my parents and me that, like if I take testosterone shots, I should be fine. And I told them, like, according to my test results, my testosterone level is perfectly fine. And I mentioned that to him, like, I see that you did gender studies, like you studied gender and like sexual identities in like UK, and I see your degrees, but I don't think testosterone, giving testosterone shots to me, can change, like make me more masculine, because like you as a doctor and me as a student, we both know that it is responsible for my secondary sexual characters. It may make my voice louder, and maybe it may make me more, like, a little more aggressive because I have like high testosterone, or like maybe give me more body hair, but it doesn't make me more masculine. Right. It cannot change how I think. Right, so I don't know, and also I told him that, like, I do not allow you to relay this information to my parents, because like me and him talking, and I told him that I do know lawyers, and he did mention the exact same thing to my parents. I didn't do anything about it, but I had to trick my parents into taking me to psychologist, because since I knew a lot of people in the city I lived in, fortunately, and I did talk to a psychologist I know in one of the famous hospitals, which they would most probably trust, and he did arrange everything for me, and we did went and talked to the therapist, and the therapist told them that she would like to get to know me, such that she can explain my parents better on what's going on with me. But my parents never went back to the psychologist, but they went to an astrologer. I don't know what was astrologer thinking, but they told my mother that I'm perfectly fine, I'm just a little stubborn, and I'm gonna do well in my life. And that's the last time they talked to me about it. And they did, they were against me growing my hair and everything, but they also were against how I dress, even though I did not specifically dress anything feminine. But I don't know, but they were scared when I decided to come to US. They were scared that I'm going to run away from home and never talk to them again. But I do talk to them, so they did not ask me too many questions. Maybe because they're still scared that I'm going to run away.
Probably. Possible,
very much. So I have this question, right? I would like to know, if you think the kind of lifestyle you had when you were like much younger, like was a better quality life, or like the current lifestyle, like for a young person like me, like comparatively, what lifestyle is better, you think?
For me, like my life before.
Yes, when you like the lifestyle you had when you were a young person, and the lifestyle or life quality we have currently, like what is better, which one is better, and why?
I mean, I don't think my life before was, as a young person, was horrible. Like my quality of life wasn't horrible. As an adult is when I really was struggling with who I was, and really not even until my late 20s. And I mean, that's not a good quality of life. That's not healthy, right? Like, I was depressed and angry and upset a lot. But I think today, young people, there's a lot more resources available. I mean, the internet alone is, a huge resource for a lot of things, which leads them to actual resources. But they, young people have, I guess, more freedom also to kind of express themselves and not feel that it's wrong, right? Like, I think when I was growing up, everything was pretty status quo. Like everybody was the same. We didn't really step outside the comfort zone of anybody. Many people, not many, a number of people I went to high school with, later, have come out, and but you would have never known as we were growing up that we were any different than anybody else. One or two people maybe, but I had a very good friend that I grew up with, and her parents were very open to everything, right? Like she didn't actually come out to them until college, but everybody suspected she was a lesbian, and I'm sure her parents did too, and they were fine with that. Like her mom was great with everything; she wouldn't have cared. But not all parents were that way. Definitely not mine. My parents, when I did come out to them, my mom, she was upset, but nothing changed. Right? She was more concerned about my dad and how he would react or what he would do. And she didn't tell him. They were still married, and she didn't tell him why I was getting divorced until I told him. Like she was like, I just can't do it. You're gonna have to do it. So for 6 weeks or whatever it was, she was a basket case, and then afterwards she was fine. He was less. I don't know. He didn't handle it well, but I mean, in later years, he's been much better. But yeah, I definitely think today it seems that there are more resources for younger people, that they have an easier time discovering who they are. Now, I will say when I was in grad school, I did a project where I did interview a number of people, mostly older than, my age or older. And regardless of when people came out, like I broke it up into different time frames, different decades. The internal struggle was the worst. It was always, once they came out, their friends were like, that's fine. Like nobody cared. And their parents were typically okay. Some parents, a couple of them weren't. But the biggest struggle was with their self. And I think sometimes that's the worst. And as a younger person now with more access to different lifestyles, they see it on TV, They see it out and about, just being out of their house, at school, different things. So I think it's easier, but I still think the internal struggle is probably just as hard, because coming to terms, that you're different, or that you're not what you thought you were, or that you're not what your parents think you are, that's kind of always the struggle. So I hope that makes sense.
I mean, it totally does.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
fine.
all right. So we talked about your parents already, but have you? I have a reason for asking this. Have you ever felt uncomfortable or unsafe when you've been out somewhere, whether at a restaurant or a grocery store or somewhere like that? Like, have you ever just walked in and then kind of like, I'm going to leave because you just didn't feel, not like you didn't belong, that you weren't welcomed?
That's like most common feeling, I guess, especially for queer people. But I don't know. I kind of feel like I've always been adventurous and outgoing and like somewhat brave in that matter, and I have like navigated those situations in a really good manner. And I am not I've never got into a trouble in a situation like that ever. So
Yeah.
I think I did well.
Yeah. There was one time, and it was only a couple years ago, we walked into a restaurant, and we had been there before, and it was just a weird feeling, like everyone kind of turned around and looked when we walked in, and we were waiting to be seated, and I said, let's just go somewhere else. Like, it was just, I just didn't feel comfortable at all. It was very bizarre. That's the only time that's ever happened. So I just wondered,
I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah, it's sad. Like, my last question to you is, what is the change that you want to see in the society or world? And also, what is the one thing you probably would want the current youths to know?
So I think I wish people would just stop worrying about everybody else. Right? Like, just let people be happy. What you do with your life has nothing to do with anybody else, right? The government, regulating everything, or just relationships in general. It doesn't matter what two people are doing, or what you're doing. One person, two people, whatever. It just doesn't matter. And love is love. That's what people say. And as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're just doing your thing, I think people just really need to accept that and quit judging everybody else for everything, right? Every little thing. And I think, young people, there's a younger generation of people that believe that, right? Like, they've been raised to be accepting, they've been raised to just love everybody for who they are. But there's also a group of young people who have not been raised that way, right? They've been raised to hate because someone's different. And that's still going to be a problem in society. And I just hope that in the future, that it goes away. But if not, that at least it's less. And there's always been gay people, there's always going to be gay people, there's going to be trans people, there's always been trans people, there's always people that are different than you or me, right? Everyone's not the same, and if everybody was the same, it would just be boring, right?
Totally.
So, all these things that we're experiencing today are not new, right? I work at, like I said, I work at UD in the archives, and we've been looking at newspapers from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The UD newspaper, the student newspaper, and the articles and the things that they're writing about in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are the same things that we're writing about today. The same things are happening. It talks about, you know, in the 80s it was AIDS and LGBT rights, and now it's LGBTQ plus whatever rights, and you know, trans rights and non-binary and abortion, right? Like it's just always the same thing, always. So I'm hoping that at some point, maybe they'll just get tired of writing about it and it'll be something new. But I don't see that happening. So we can hope. And my last question, what advice would you give to young adults or teens who are struggling with their sexual identity?
It's so difficult to give advice from where I'm sitting. I mean, at least like I was fortunate enough to be like, I don't know, raised and supported by like, I don't know, people like who like gave me right resources at the right time. I think like you were right that we have enormous resources online, and we all of us, like, or at least most of us in the world, have access to internet, at least at this point. But I think there is a like overwhelming amount of information out there, and like despite of all that there is, we still need that like support from people, which we highly lack. And second thing is, I think the idea of pluralistic ignorance of loneliness is so common in people. I know that I am lonely, and I may also know that someone else is lonely, but I never acknowledge it openly, such that like we can connect and talk about things to like each other and resolve it. Instead, we just keep it, and like I know a lot of things, but what's the point of knowing things when you do not exchange it and like, I don't know, get something out of it? I think like going out, knowing people, like networking, gathering more resources, like what is gonna really help in a coming out journey or making a queer life better. I think even though there has been a tremendous change or like progress in queer movements and life, like the marriage rights and all of those, like I still think that there is still a gap between the heterosexual society and the queer people, and the the gap between the religion and the queer people, which needs to be bridged, because those are the majority people. And I know like we probably may not need them to live our life, but it makes our life better and easier and loving, kind, harmonious when we all can get together and live a life together. And I think like some of the steps, at least I take every single day, is being part of different circles, going to different being part of different ethnic groups, events, and letting them know that I'm just another human being who tries to hustle to make my ends meet. And we share most of the things common. I still do eat food. I live in a house. I just may like a person of the same gender, which they do not, but that's none of their concern. And they should love me for a good human I am, rather than who I love.
Right.
But yeah,
Exactly.
struggle. But it's been a pleasure talking
Yeah.
to you, Jim, and thank
Me
you so much
too.
for sharing all of your insights and your experiences.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for watching Q Stories. Have a good day.